He had sex with these women. So they were intimate relationships. They were entirely consensual. And for at least a decade after the relationships, no one claimed they were not consensual.
In this video, I want to look at the idea that violence in relationships can be considered consensual. Spoiler alert, it's not. But in a new Channel 4 documentary about Marilyn Manson, inside the shocking abuse allegations, that's the best argument his lawyer Howard King was putting forward. And I think it's really important that we focus on it, because in the documentary it just sits there, it's not challenged, and it seems to be the argument that P. Diddy's legal team are also putting forward in that very public case to discredit the lead witness for the prosecution over there, Cassie Ventura. We all saw with our own eyes CCTV footage from an LA hotel of him kicking and beating her in the corridor. He posted a video on his Instagram apologising for his behaviour, which he then deleted. Howard E. King is an entertainment litigation lawyer based in Los Angeles, and one of his other clients is Dr. Dre, another alleged abuser. The documentary starts by looking at Evan Rachel Wood, Marilyn Manson's ex-girlfriend, and she testified in front of Congress in 2018. In support of the Sexual Assault Survivors Bill of Rights Act. Now, this was a bill introduced in 2016 to improve human rights after the Me Too movement. Its purpose was to provide additional rights to victims of sexual assault and help them better navigate the complicated processes that face them. We're nearly 10 years into this. Does anyone think things have improved for women or men that have been victims of SA?
Thank you for inviting me to testify today. My name is Evan Rachel Wood, and I'm an artist, but I am also a domestic violence and sexual assault survivor and the single mother of a young boy. When I was 5 years old, I started working in film, and every day since then I worked to reach the very privileged place I'm aware that I occupy. And I'm here today to use my position as an artist, survivor, mother, and advocate to bring a human voice to the population of 25 million survivors in the U.S. who are currently experiencing inequality under the law and who desperately need basic civil rights.
So in her original testimony, she never said who her abuser was.
I thought I was the only human who experienced this, and I carried so much guilt and confusion about my response to the abuse. I accepted my powerlessness, and I felt I deserved it somehow. Why? My experience with domestic violence was this: toxic mental, physical, and sexual abuse, which started slow but escalated over time, including threats against my life, severe gaslighting and brainwashing, waking up to the man that claimed to love me raping what he believed to be my unconscious body. And the worst part, sick rituals of binding me up by my hands and feet to be mentally and physically tortured until my abuser felt I had proven my love for them. In this moment, while I was tied up and being beaten and being told unspeakable things, I truly felt like I could die, not just because my abuser said to me, "I could kill you right now," but because in that moment I felt like I left my body and I was too afraid to run. He would find me. I froze, and it was as if I could see myself from the outside, and for the first time in months, I felt something, utter shame and despair.
But given that her relationship with Marilyn Manson was very public, a few people put two and two together, and then more of his victims started to come forward. After she did go public with who it was in an Instagram post. But Howard wants us to believe that this was all a personal vendetta she had against him to single-handedly bring him down as a single mother and former child actress.
They were all false claims. This whole scheme has been based upon Evan Rachel Wood doing everything to destroy Brian, not only professionally, but emotionally.
By the way, I really hate the way these documentaries use dramatic music to emphasize their points.
When Evan Rachel Wood identified her alleged abuser as Brian, within 24 hours of these allegations becoming public, his record label dropped him, his talent agent dropped him, and his manager dropped him. He knew he was getting canceled based upon what were horrendous and false claims.
Wait, all these people who knew him for years, his manager, his agency, his label, who'd made money with him, ditched him just because of what she said? Are you being serious, Howard? See, Howard, the litigation expert, has carved out this argument that Evan Rachel Wood is that good at acting. She's managed to turn all these people against him. Marilyn Manson releases a statement that everything that happened in the relationships was consensual between like-minded partners, completely ignoring that a lot of his girlfriends were groomed from a young age. Evan Rachel Wood was only 18 when she went out with Marilyn Manson, who was 37. She's almost still a child. And he's a huge, powerful star at this time. How is that a like-minded partnership? And a lot of these alleged consensual acts happened when the girls were intoxicated. By definition, that means consent wasn't possible. So if we really wanted the truth, Marilyn Manson and Howard should at least be able to hear what they have to say and make an informed opinion. As to them waiting 10 years to come forward,
For at least a decade after the relationships, no one claimed they were not consensual.
that doesn't mean they weren't. No one would have been taken seriously coming forward in 2008. Look at what's happening even now. The whole idea that that lawyer knows what happened in every minute of all of his relationships, when there's at least 25 million survivors of sexual abuse. Sometimes it can happen in minutes, sometimes it can be inflicted over years. There's no one to say how long it could take you to process and decide to do anything about it. I've actually interviewed a professional who works within the DV space to find out more about it.
People tend to not want to go on the record for various reasons. Their fear of retaliation or retribution. But the breakthrough happened when Esme Bianco, an ex-girlfriend of Brian Warner, who was also an actress most popularly known as Roz from Game of Thrones, came out with allegations against Warner a couple of weeks after Evan Rachel Wood.
So Rolling Stone magazine does a full investigation into the allegations and publishes an article exposing more victims, which is what led to this documentary being made.
In 2009, she says Manson asked her to star in a music video he was making and flew her from London to LA.
He told me that we were going to shoot it all on flip cam so that we could do it ourselves.
So he's going to be alone with her and he doesn't have to pay anyone to film either.
And he locked me in his bedroom and he tied me to a wooden prayer kneeler. I was half naked and he beat me with a whip and he filmed it.
Over the following 2 years, she says their relationship became sexual.
He would hide abuse by doing it during sex, basically. He always went too far, the biting. That was 100% non-consensual. And he would bite me till I was black and blue. I thought he was in love with me. I did not understand that what was happening to me was very, very wrong. And because he was incredibly manipulative.
How long did it take you to realize that's what was happening?
7 years after I left. It's terrifying. I'm still scared of him.
Esme speaks to us September of 2021, and she was our first major on-the-record interview with one of Warner's accusers.
In October 2024, Esme spoke out publicly against the DA's office in LA for failing to move forward with her case. She said, "Almost 4 years ago, I did what victims of rape are supposed to do. I went to the police. I described the agonizing detail how the musician Brian Warner, better known as Marilyn Manson, did what he did during our relationship. Despite a thorough investigation and hundreds of pieces of evidence being submitted, I am still waiting for justice. In the meantime, I have received death threats while my abuser continues to perform publicly." Another woman to speak out was his former assistant, Ashley Waters. When victims come forward, there's often people saying they're doing it for a money grab or publicity. She's not even a public figure. She's had to fight in court to have her case heard.
Whether you were a girlfriend or an employee, you were going to be subjected to a lot of abuse, a lot of psychological games. He had these goblets that he drank absinthe out of. And I remember him throwing it at a girlfriend. She was crying, and he kept saying, "You look so pretty when you cry," and wanted me to take pictures of her while she cried. It was his way to make sure he could trust me to do what he said. He was the puppet master pulling the strings, manipulating everyone's relationship with each other.
Start seeing a pattern, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy." They would accuse Warner of sexual, psychological, mental, and emotional abuse.
There are still people, a small bunch of people, but they make a lot of noise, that think this man is innocent and that he's the victim. As soon as I watched this video, they were all over it. In the comments, victim shaming. This account was the worst. They are all over Reddit forums. We now know this is called astroturfing. The charges are not dropped. They never came to court. He settled and paid them off. He dropped the defamation lawsuit against Evan Rachel Wood in November, paid her over $300,000 to cover her legal expenses. He also settled with Esme, which makes his lawyer sound like the one that's lying. Why would an innocent person pay off all these accusers? In December, a judge in LA ruled finally that his deposition would be moving forward in the criminal case. I don't know why it's so hard for some of these people to accept what he did to these women and how he went about it. Whether he's guilty or not, why would you support that?
The most dangerous people are women, if you let them be. Not that I'm sexist, misogynist maybe, but not sexist. The most dangerous people are women, if you let them be. I prefer to mentally break a woman down to the point where she has no other choice but to submit to me. But rape, it takes all the fun out of it.
It's impossible to hear him say things like that now and not feel like this is something he actually believed. And that's the really creepy part.
When you're trying to create something that's greater than everything around you, some people are going to suffer, but that's the price for greatness.
Bianca met Brian when she was a kid. She was 16, barely 16. He raped her. He continued to contact her over the years, and she was under the influence of his manipulation. Then he sexually assaulted Bianca when she was 19. He is a monster, and we're standing behind her with the legitimacy of her claims, and we want them to be adjudicated in the right place where the truth, truly the truth, can come out.
Why are we excusing this behavior? Somebody needs to stop this. I just thought, I have to do something or try.
Please, someone with a logical brain, tell me why you would spend years of your life trying to prove that Marilyn Manson raped you as a teenager, and you've got pictures torn out from your school book where he signed his name if it didn't happen. Someone must know if that's his signature, but his lawyer said he never met her.
He never met the girl, and I have signed declarations from people who are witnesses under penalty of perjury, who were there at the time of the alleged incidents, who say that her allegations are impossible.
You would be surprised how easily someone would sign a false declaration under penalty of perjury for someone they don't even know for no money, let alone Marilyn Manson. I've witnessed it myself in the Lima Yevremovich BJ Investigates lawsuit, which I've made several videos about. And they also appeared on a TV documentary. But you know what? They have a history of lying.
Manson, he's lying. But I'm not surprised. I mean, that's what he does. He lies. But other people still believe him.
It's so much bigger than just one man and a few victims. This keeps happening, and the system is still the same. Law enforcement, the court system, the media, and we're just gonna keep seeing this happening until the system changes.
I think the system is pretty flawed. But hopefully they have enough to see that it's all true. I think he's a criminal. He should be held accountable. I hope we get justice and he has to pay for his actions, because he destroyed a lot of lives, in my opinion.
There's one victim that his lawyer is not mad at, and that's Ashley Morgan Smithline. And she had a much shorter relationship than the others. She went very public about it at the time.
These feelings of guilt and shame have lessened. They're not going away, and I don't know that they will. And my feelings of dirtiness and wanting to wash that off has not gone away. And I really look forward to when it does.
A spokesperson for Marilyn Manson sent us the following statement. We strongly deny Ms. Smithline's claims. There are so many falsehoods within her claims that we wouldn't know where to begin to answer them. This relationship, to the limited extent it was a relationship, lasted less than a week in 2010. Manson hasn't seen Ms. Smithline since then. Ashley, how do you respond to that?
I would say that it's further proof that he's denying any accountability at all, that he completely takes no responsibility for anything he's done.
And Sunny, if I could add to that, you know, it's one thing to issue a statement to the media, and it's another thing to respond to a lawsuit. And we'll look forward to seeing what the evidence shows in this case, and the evidence will back up the claims made in the complaint.
In February of 2023,
Ashley Morgan Smithline,
one of the women featured in Rolling Stone's investigation, recanted her allegations.
Ashley called me. She said, I really want to tell the truth. I feel horrible what's happened. I don't want a dime out of this. Please convey my apologies to Brian. You know, I was persuaded for a minute by Evan that I had been raped, and that was false.
Does this sound believable? Let me know in the comments.
I spent 2 weeks with Brian, and they were wonderful, and I wish him all the best.
Oh, it's 2 weeks now.
So not only was this made up, but she had been persuaded to bring a claim under the theory that her memory had been repressed and that she's not remembering accurately what happened 10 years earlier.
I mean, it's false. I don't know how Evan would recruit people. Like, it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. You start feeling the strength in numbers and safety, and that's what happened.
I would never want somebody to do something they felt uncomfortable with. I know not to put pressure on a survivor to come forward if they're not ready. You just say, if this is something you want to do, I have your back. You do it in your own time. If you're not ready, that's okay. But I don't know what's going on in her head. All I know is it sounded like she was really scared and getting a lot of harassment. From the brief correspondences we were having on Instagram, I could tell during the Johnny Depp trial, she was in distress. She said, look at the hate. I can't handle this, I'm pulling out. She said that to me, you know. So that's pretty clear.
So here's the thing that doesn't make sense. She contacts his lawyer. She tells Evan in a DM. So we have the receipts. She's seeing all the hate directed at Amber Heard from the Johnny Depp trial. So what does she do? She turns up on a podcast, a YouTube channel that I've mentioned a few times in my videos, Popcorn Planet. Andy Signor, who has his own allegations of grooming females through his platform involving SA, and he's literally a cheerleader for Johnny Depp. He made hundreds of videos about the trial. Just recently, he's been supporting Justin Baldoni. Why would she choose to go on that platform?
I'm recording this because it's like, oh my gosh, guys, Ashley Morgan Smithline is here on the phone. We were just reporting on the Evan Rachel Wood filings. We've reported on your filings. And I got to say, now that you are officially here on the show, what an honor to have you, because look, I know a lot of fans are mad at you, but I got to give you props for standing up against...
so, though. You know what? Fair game. Like, they should be mad. Like, and the cool thing, like, and I've said this, like, the cool thing about being an adult is saying, like, I succumbed to, like, peer pressure. I'm a people pleaser. These girls was all, like, pretending to be my sisters, and, like, I was not medically, if you can see, when you watch Phoenix Rising, you'll see, like, I was literally like 30 kilos soaking wet. Like, I was fucking sick as shit, and there was lots of cocaine and lots of tequila. And, like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I accept my accountability for sure. And, like, but like, I think it's never too late to tell the truth, and it's never too late to do the right thing.
So she kind of has a bit of an Australian accent. A few people have pointed that out in the comments. And also, if you're going to tell the truth, why are you going on a platform that's known for fake victims and spreading misinformation? Here's what she sounded like before.
Before I even met him, that he would sit around the house in sweats, and that it was, again, like a public persona, and that wasn't who he really was. But again, I think that that's the problem, that we're focusing on, like, they should have known better. Look at him. Like,
Yeah. That's a very old trope, Ashley, and I'm very, very sorry. And just because you're with someone who's an entertainer does not mean that they have the right to do all the horrific, monstrous things that was done to you.
I keep getting my phone and my Instagram hacked, and like, they can take conversations and clone them and then like change some of the wording and conversations. Like, they can do whatever they want, and like, they're coming back hard because they're scared. If they had nothing to lose, they wouldn't care. Like, they just sit there and be like, this girl's lying, who cares? Like, but they're coming back hard because they're scared. And like, whatever Evan allegedly did, she allegedly, I don't know when I have to legally say this, I said, like, it's creating a conspiracy.
If you don't know if you don't know if you should say it,
don't say it.
Don't say it.
Yeah, be careful, because I don't want to get you in trouble.
No, but he did create a conspiracy. That's not alleged at all. I mean, whatever. Maybe I have to say it is, but like, she created a conspiracy against a person who's like a good person. People have asked, like, what's he like? He's fucking lovely. Excuse me. He's bloody lovely. Like, he's a good person who's, you know, kind, and like, you know, his stage persona isn't who he is at home. He doesn't walk around his house in stilt heels and you know, loads of makeup and stuff. Like, he sat around and like, you know, play guitar and watch music and like listen to when he was finishing up the album and stuff. Like, he's a good guy. Like, so anyways, but like,
I guess my question was just like, you know,
conspiracy, like making it a conspiracy, I think in America is like very illegal, and making false accusations is one thing, but like going to the district attorney, going to the FBI, like making even like a false police report is highly illegal. So like, now, like, hi Evan, like, worry about jails and you might really enjoy it.
This didn't age well at all.
Not for the reasons everyone's thinking, not for like the showers or whatever, but like because of the she'll be the belle of the ball. She'll finally be the star, you know?
I mean, I want to push just only a little bit into that. I saw some of the comments saying it's true. Like, well, I mean, you sort of facilitated it, right? You took the narrative she was feeding you, and you were, you know, spreading this lie further. What do you say? No, what do you say to the people out there who are trying to just say like, oh, she's changing her tune now because of this? Like, how do you really justify it to these people who are still mad at you or confused? And how could you say those things and suddenly change your mind?
People are like, are you being paid to say this? And like, no, but you all can buy me ketamine if you want. Not for any. This is why I don't talk live. I'm better at scripted.
She said, I'm better at scripted. Oop.
Yeah, no. I'm not being like paid or like brainwashed or anything to say this. Like, this isn't like a good career move for me either. Like,
that's true.
There's nothing that comes good for me by saying that like I like was part of a conspiracy and a lie. That just makes me look shit.
People are looking at these cases and starting to realize that maybe we've gone a little too far with this maxim that you must believe the woman whatever she says. Especially when it comes to a woman who acknowledges a consensual sexual relationship and then 10 years later changes her story.
So this is the reason why I made this video, is because of how disturbing that comment was. A lawyer is supposed to be defending his client, not gaslighting us. That acknowledging a consensual relationship means consenting to violence or assault. Every woman and man knows the difference between being edgy, or whatever you want to call it these days, and trying to physically harm and control someone. So please do not insult my or anyone else's intelligence. There's an underlying theme in the documentary that the lines were blurred between his real violence and his art. And because he was a rock star, it was okay for him to speak about it, and these girls should have known what they were getting themselves into, even though it was him pursuing them with offers of work, and they were glorifying him in these relationships. I guess they feel bad now. So no, we don't have to believe every allegation that's made, but when there's clear evidence going back decades, posting on social media is literally the only public space for it. And no, things have not gone a little too far. Sexual assault is still massively underreported, and rarely do victims receive justice. It's very convenient that you found Ashley, and she goes on the podcast to say the DMs have been hacked. And the other talking point, that at home his persona was different from on stage. That sounds like a lie to me. I just want to mention while I'm here, Dita Von Teese, Marilyn Manson's first wife. When all these allegations were first kicking off, she apparently posted on her Instagram that their experiences didn't match hers, and that's often brought up in the comments. That post is now deleted. I actually met her, and I actually worked with her for a day. Just after she had gotten divorced. And you know what's funny is I always got the impression that he treated her badly. I can't remember exactly how she said it, but I just got that vibe. And if you look back at what she said in an interview at the time in the Telegraph magazine, where the interviewer really pushed her to talk about, she moved out on Christmas Eve with nothing due to his drug use and infidelity. She said he was depressed and there was an inappropriate relationship. Do you really think Dita Von Teese wants her brand that she's worked very hard to build up being destroyed by the power that he clearly has behind the scenes? It also says that he had Nazi uniforms and a fetus in the house. I've also heard that he had a very disturbed upbringing, but there are plenty of psychopaths that didn't. I didn't really pay attention to this guy or what was being said about him, but I do pay attention to his victims. I agree with Evan, we keep seeing this over and over every time a woman speaks out about being exploited or abused. There's a smear campaign in the media and it's fueled by comments on social media platforms, just like has been detailed in the Blake Lively versus Baldoni lawsuit. Then there's the surge in defenders who say he's been stitched up or being silenced, like what happened with Russell Brand. It's how PR firms have been influencing us for years now. How we have so many liars in positions of power that use their money to promote what stories are pushed in the algorithm. And when there really are false allegations, like the recent lawsuit that Tony Busby filed against Jay-Z, which really was withdrawn and dismissed with prejudice without a settlement, they don't bother to research and find out someone was lying. And that's how all these scammers and conspiracies keep spreading. We really have to watch who the sources are and what are their intentions. Howard King makes a lot of money out of coming up with excuses for Marilyn Manson. It's a shame the documentary gave him the opportunity to justify that behaviour yet again.